Welcome to the Easy Vibes podcast, your escape to calm, uplifting conversations. Whether you're unwinding or recharging, we've got the perfect vibe for you. So sit back, relax, and let's get into it.
Hello, and welcome back to the Easy Vibes podcast, the show where we dive deep into the art that shapes our world. I'm your host, Chloe.
And I'm Aiden. It is so good to be back. Today, we're tuning into a topic that's literally the soundtrack to our lives, the magic of film scores.
Exactly. A great score is an invisible character in a film. It can make you feel terror, joy, or heartbreak, sometimes without you even realizing why. So today, we're putting the composers and the music front and center.
Let's start with the legends, the dynamic duos of film. I'm talking about those iconic director-composer partnerships that feel like they were forged in the cinematic heavens.
You have to start with Steven Spielberg and John Williams. Their collaboration is the stuff of legend, spanning nearly 50 years. From Jaws to E.T., Jurassic Park to Schindler's List, they've defined the sound of the blockbuster.
And it's the trust between them that's so amazing. There's that famous story from when Williams first played the main theme for Jaws for Spielberg on a piano. It was just 2 notes. Dun-dun, dun-dun. Spielberg apparently laughed, thinking it was a joke. But Williams explained the power of its simplicity, how it was primal and relentless like the shark itself, and Spielberg just trusted him. That theme is now cultural shorthand for impending doom. That's synergy. That trust goes both ways. For E.T., the music for the final chase scene was so complex and perfectly timed that Spielberg couldn't get the edits to match. So he turned off the screen, told Williams to conduct the orchestra as if it were a concert piece, and then edited the scene to fit the music. Who does that?
Only someone who views their composer as a true storytelling partner. Then you have the other side of the coin, a partnership that's just as iconic but completely different in tone. Tim Burton and Danny Elfman.
Oh, the masters of gothic whimsy. Their work is so distinctive. If Spielberg and Williams are about grand adventure and heartfelt emotion, Burton and Elfman are about the magic of the misfit.
Absolutely. Elfman's music gives a voice to Burton's outsider characters. Think about Edward Scissorhands. He barely speaks, but the score tells you everything. It's delicate, melancholic, and beautiful, capturing his innocence and sadness. The music is his inner monologue.
And because Elfman came from the rock world with his band Oingo Boingo, he brought this frantic, quirky energy that traditional composers just didn't have. The score for Beetlejuice is chaotic, carnivalesque, and just plain weird in the best way possible. It perfectly matches the film's anarchic visuals.
Those partnerships are built on a shared artistic language. But let's talk about a modern composer who has created his own language, a true titan of the industry. Hans Zimmer.
The man, the myth, the legend. You can't talk about modern film scores without dedicating a huge chunk of time to Zimmer. He completely changed the sound of the blockbuster with his signature wall of sound.
He did. He pioneered this fusion of orchestral and electronic music, creating these incredibly powerful, atmospheric, and often very loud soundscapes. The most famous example is probably the Bram sound from Inception, which was everywhere for years after.
His partnership with Christopher Nolan is one of the most innovative out there. They're always pushing boundaries. For The Dark Knight, they wanted a theme for the Joker that wasn't a theme at all, just a feeling of pure anxiety. Zimmer created it using just one cello note, played with razors and other objects that just screeches and builds. It's terrifying.
And then, for Dunkirk, they took it even further. Zimmer built the entire score around a sound called a shepherd tone. It's basically an auditory illusion where a sound seems to be constantly rising in pitch, but it never actually gets higher.
Right. So for the entire film, you have this feeling of unbearable, unending tension. You feel like you're on a staircase that just keeps going up and up and up. It's a genius way to put the audience directly into the psychological state of those soldiers.
But it's crucial to remember he's not just about intense electronic sounds. This is the same man who won an Oscar for The Lion King. He beautifully blended epic orchestral themes with the incredible vocals of South African singer Lebo M to create a sound that felt both timeless and completely authentic.
Don't forget Gladiator.
He worked with Lisa Gerrard to create one of the most epic and emotionally devastating scores of all time. It's powerful and grand, but also deeply personal and tragic. The range that man has is just breathtaking.
And it's because his path was so unconventional. He didn't just come from a purely classical background. He started in pop music. He was in the Buggles. Speaking of breathtaking, we have to talk about the incredible wave of female composers who are reshaping the sonic landscape of cinema right now, especially people like Hildur Guðnadóttir.
Absolutely. Her Oscar-winning score for Joker is a masterclass in psychological tension. She built the entire score around the cello, creating this raw, almost brutal sound that becomes the character's internal monologue. You can literally hear his sanity fraying.
And that focus on atmosphere and psychology leads us directly into the ultimate genre for sonic manipulation, horror. But let's pivot from a genre where music creates fear to one where it takes center stage in a completely different way, the movie musical. Here, the songs aren't just background, they are the plot. Then you have the Disney Renaissance in the 90s. Composers like Alan Menken perfected the I Want song in films like The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. These songs became the narrative engine, establishing a character's core motivation right at the beginning.
That's a great point, and it brings up another genre where popular music is front and center, the musical biopic. It presents a fascinating challenge, doesn't it? How do you score the life of a musician who is already world famous for their sound? But let's pivot from a genre where music creates fear to one where it takes center stage in a completely different way, the movie musical. Here, the songs aren't just background, they are the plot. From the real stories of musical legends, let's journey into the speculative, otherworldly realms of science fiction. Sci-fi scores grapple with some of the biggest ideas imaginable: technology, humanity's future, and the vastness of the unknown.
It really is. To understand how we got to composers like Zimmer, though, we have to look back at the evolution of film music. In Hollywood's golden age, composers like Max Steiner basically invented the rule book. His music for films like King Kong literally mimicked the action on screen. It was effective, but then came a true revolutionary who threw that rulebook out the window, Ennio Morricone. His scores for Sergio Leone's spaghetti westerns didn't just accompany the films, they are the films. That is the perfect way to put it. Think of the main theme from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Before Morricone, westerns had these big, heroic orchestral themes. Morricone used a coyote howl, a flute, whistling, whip cracks, and a Fender Stratocaster guitar.
It sounded like nothing else. It was sparse, gritty, and dangerous. It captured the moral ambiguity of Clint Eastwood's character and the harshness of the landscape. He created a sound for an entire genre that is still being imitated today. He made film scores sound cool.
This brings us to a foundational concept in scoring, something John Williams is the undisputed master of: the leitmotif. It's a recurring musical phrase associated with a particular person, place, or idea.
And there is no greater example in all of cinema than Star Wars. You hear the first two notes of the Imperial March and you immediately see Darth Vader in your mind's eye. It's militaristic, menacing, and unforgettable. But what makes Williams a genius is how he develops these themes. It's not just about Vader. You have Luke's theme, which is soaring, heroic, and full of youthful adventure. Then there's Leia's theme, which is this beautiful, sweeping, romantic melody. And the magic is how they evolve and interact. In Return of the Jedi, when Luke finally reveals to Leia that they are siblings, you hear her theme play, but it's interwoven with hints of the Force theme. Williams is telling you, through music, that their connection is more than just familial, it's cosmic.
Exactly. Or when Vader saves Luke and turns against the Emperor, you hear a sad, almost broken version of the Imperial March. The theme of evil is transformed into a theme of redemption. It's storytelling on the highest level. The score tells a complete emotional story on its own.
Okay, so we've covered original scores. Let's switch gears and talk about the art of the needle drop, using a pre-existing song in a scene. It sounds simple, but when it's done right, it's just as powerful.
Filmmakers like Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino are famous for this, but one of my all-time favorite examples comes from Cameron Crowe's Almost Famous.
Ugh, the tiny dancer scene. It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. The band is on their tour bus and they've just had a massive, soul-crushing fight. The silence is thick with resentment. Then Elton John's Tiny Dancer comes on the radio. At first, no one reacts, but then one person starts quietly singing along, then another, until the whole bus is singing together. The song becomes a peace offering. It's a moment of forgiveness, connection, and pure catharsis, all communicated through one perfect song choice. And sometimes the most brilliant needle drops are the ones that feel totally wrong at first. I'm thinking about Sofia Coppola's Marie Antoinette, a historical period piece that uses 80s new wave and post-punk music.
I remember how controversial that was. People were confused, but it was a genius move. Coppola used bands like The Strokes and New Order to translate the experience of being a young, isolated, rebellious royal into an emotional language a modern audience could instantly understand.
It made Marie Antoinette feel less like a stuffy historical figure and more like a real teenager. The anachronism bridged a 200-year gap and made her story feel urgent and relatable. It's a bold choice that totally pays off.
So what about the trends we're seeing today? One of the biggest has to be the 80s synth revival.
Oh, absolutely. The score for Stranger Things is the perfect example. Those analog synth arpeggios immediately transport you. It's partly a nostalgia thing, since many of today's filmmakers grew up in that era.
But there's more to it. That synth sound can be incredibly versatile. It can feel dreamy and nostalgic, but it can also be incredibly creepy and unnerving, like in the score for the horror film It Follows. It taps into a very specific cultural mood.
Another massive modern trend is the curated soundtrack as a cultural event in itself. I'm talking about albums like Black Panther the Album, produced by Kendrick Lamar.
Yes, that wasn't just a soundtrack. It was a companion piece. The album was a phenomenon that stood on its own, with major artists creating new music inspired by the themes of the film: identity, pride, power, heritage.
It was a new form of transmedia storytelling. The album expanded the world of the film, adding new layers and perspectives. It created a feedback loop where the movie elevated the album and the album elevated the movie, creating a massive cultural moment that was bigger than both.
Speaking of worlds, that's a perfect transition to a genre where music isn't just an addition, it's a fundamental building block of reality: animation.
Absolutely. In animation, every single element is built from scratch, and the score often carries even more of the emotional weight. You can't talk about this without mentioning the legendary partnership between Hayao Miyazaki and composer Joe Hisaishi at Studio Ghibli.
And that long-form storytelling of animation leads perfectly into our final topic: the explosion of prestige television. The line between TV and cinema has completely blurred, giving composers a massive new canvas to work with. Okay, we've covered so much. It's time to bring it all home with the ultimate impossible question. Are you ready, Eden?
I'm nervous, but yes, hit me.
You are stranded on a desert island for the rest of your life. You can only bring one film soundtrack or score with you. What do you choose?
Oh, that is just cruel. One? My brain is short-circuiting. The pressure is immense. Do I go practical, like something long and epic so I don't get bored? Howard Shore's score for The Lord of the Rings has hours and hours of music.
That's a very logical choice. So much variety there. Or do you go for pure vibes? The Guardians of the Galaxy Awesome Mix would keep your spirits up while you're trying to build a raft.
See, that's a strong contender. But I think I need something more atmospheric. A score that creates a whole world. I'm thinking of Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's score for The Social Network. It's dark and electronic and so moody. Perfect for contemplating my solitude.
I could see that. For me, my first instinct is Jan Tiersen's score for Amelie. It's so beautiful and whimsical. It would make my little palm frond hut feel like a charming Parisian apartment.
Okay, final decision time. No more hesitation. After much internal debate, I am choosing Vangelis' score for Blade Runner. It's futuristic, melancholic, haunting, and deeply beautiful. It sounds like the past and the future at the same time. I could listen to it forever. That's my final answer.
An impeccable choice, a true masterpiece. Okay, my turn. I think I have to go with the one that started it all for me. John Williams' score for Star Wars: A New Hope. It has everything: adventure, romance, danger, heroism. It's pure cinematic joy. It's my musical comfort food.
The ultimate classic. You can't go wrong with that. Well, there you have it. 2 very different desert island soundtracks.
And that brings us to the end of our episode. We'd love to hear your picks. Find us on social media and let us know your desert island choice. Until next time, keep listening.